Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, 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 maybe, but yes.
And we are live. This is our first in-person recording on the 1 year anniversary of podcast 43 being a thing. So, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Fulton. I'm really happy to be in person, and yeah, it's quite poetic that it is on the 1 year anniversary of this podcast. Back a year ago when we started talking about RoboCop with no organization, no organization whatsoever. Literally just spitballing for an hour.
It would be kind of funny if me and you just stared at our screens the whole time while in person.
Yeah, I know, honestly.
But yeah, no, I just want to give a moment to say thank you for everyone that's been with us. If you're new or if you've been listening to us for a while, just want to say thank you. We're about to hit 200 all-time or 2,000 all-time listens, which is also really cool. And I just want to say thank you, I guess, before we hopped right into our feature film. Unfortunately, it's not RoboCop 2 or the RoboCop remake. But I know I couldn't bring Chris to do it.
Well, our feature film is actually something that's equally as politically salient, and that is Mike McCoy and Scott Wow's 2012 film Act of Valor, which tells the story of brave Navy SEALs who... No, I'm just kidding. It's Dalton Trumbo's Johnny Got His Gun from 1971, based off of the novel by Dalton Trumbo, Johnny Got His Gun, which ideologically is nowhere near Act of Valor on how it portrays war.
I would have thought they would have been similar, but, it's unfortunate.
If there's one thing that Dalton Trumbo loved, it was how cool the Navy SEALs were.
I don't even know where we would begin with this one, but I guess we can kind of start with, like Chris said, it was a book, and originally Chris was telling me slightly before we started that Dalton Trumbo didn't want to direct. Right.
He did not. So Dalton Trumbo wrote the book in 1938, and it became kind of a pretty big hit among the people, the American people. It was actually they did a radio play where Jimmy Cagney played the main character, Joe Bonham, and it was very good. It was very. It sold a lot of copies, actually. And of course, famously, Dalton Trumbo was blacklisted. One of the biggest named people to be blacklisted in Hollywood because of his ties to communism. So yeah, he kind of had to go away for a little bit or use a pseudonym.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote plenty of stuff still. Spartacus. He wrote Roman Holiday, Gun Crazy, which is a favorite of mine. Very, very fun film noir. But yeah, he was able to come back and, you end up using his name and directing this film. But he originally wanted Louis Buñuel to direct it, but Buñuel just receives a production credit in this film instead.
I would be interested to hear what kind of ideas Buñuel would have had for it, just out of the curiosity of seeing what other directors would have brought to it. I'm not saying that Dalton's vision was lacking in any way, shape, or form, but just out of pure curiosity.
Well, I think when both me and you were watching it, you were the first to bring it up, but as soon as you brought it up, the similarities were inescapable to me of the Kurt Vonnegut novel Slaughterhouse-Five in its film adaptation, where it feels very direct from the book.
Yeah.
And while the Vonnegut, the adaptation of Vonnegut's novel was not directed by Vonnegut, it interestingly, I don't know, there were a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
But
it has the same kind of tone and feeling.
yeah,
But I mean, I guess they're trying to get at the same. Well, I'm trying to remember exactly everything from Slaughterhouse-Five, but
it did come out. They did come out 1 year apart from each other too. So
the books or the movies,
the films.
okay.
Slaughterhouse-Five came out a lot
Was
later
it?
than Johnny Got His Gun. Yeah, Slaughterhouse-Five
Okay.
came out in the '60s. But yeah, nonetheless, I think that this is still stronger than Slaughterhouse-Five.
Yeah, I agree full-heartedly.
So yeah, the core of this movie is the belief that war is bad, which, controversial topic, I know. But it also utilizes flashbacks and nonlinear editing to tell us that, and it also switches between black and white and color, where the present day Johnny, or Joe actually, is stuck in a hospital bed as a World War I veteran who's honorably discharged from his injuries, as he just ponders his life, motionless, unable to think, unable to move or really
Feel.
or unable to really feel. He can shake his head a little bit, which he does a lot.
That's the most mobility. He doesn't have any legs or arms. And there's a really interesting scene there where he's trying to basically like recapture the feeling in his mouth, and he's not able to feel his teeth or his cheeks. He just kind of feels like almost like a pit of dryness that is slightly moist on like the edges of his kind of face, which I thought was a very interesting little scene there. But yeah, I keep trying to. It's interesting, and another similarity I kind of want to pull out between this one and Slaughterhouse-Five is the way they kind of connect scenes by kind of having two conversations like spliced in together. That happened a few times in Johnny Got His Gun as well. But do you know if Dalton Trumbo ever expressed interest in directing another movie? Was this kind of the only?
I don't believe so. I think
Okay.
this was the only thing he ever directed. This was the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do also think that it's a bit. I would be lying if I didn't say that I kind of felt like I was like, we get it,
Yeah.
It does go on for a bit too long.
Mm-hmm.
It's nearly 2 hours, and I felt like it ends up kind of running out of ways to tell you like, just how bad the war is, or the personal stories of Joe, and eventually you end up just kind of nodding and just kind of wishing for something else. I think its biggest issue is that I just think it kind of lacks in the filmmaking aspect.
Mm-hmm.
It does just feel very literary, and of course, you do what you know, and that's what Trumbo knew. He was he was a writer. So like, for a first film, for the first film that he directed, I just wish that maybe he could have went on to direct other things, so you could
Kind
maybe
of build on
well
what
look
he learned.
well also like look and see how he would perhaps grow as a filmmaker. Because I just don't really know if what he offered was like, I thought it was okay. I just didn't think it was like phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of lends into like when you talk, like, because I was telling Chris when we were watching the movie, I mean, I don't really ever hear this movie mentioned when the topic of like war movies comes up, or anti-war movies. And yes, I do agree that it does kind of run its course before the runtime is over. And it could probably be trimmed down a little bit and be better for it. I just find that idea so, like, The idea of somebody that is basically just a conscious, like just stuck in a body, in the ways that they would probably, I mean, go insane and have to relive all their memories, and how it just kind of feels like so alien to them. I find that to be such an interesting kind of, I just find that to be a really interesting concept to play around with. I might like the book a little bit more than I like the movie, but, I want to read the book. I'm just saying.
Most definitely, it's an interesting concept. It's very horrifying to think of.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Just being completely unconscious. No, just being not unconscious. Being conscious, but not being able to articulate any of the feelings that you have, and just finding solace in your mind as you slowly go more and more insane.
And then he finally finds his voice in Morse code, and he's rejected. That his wishes and desires are rejected by the generals.
I will say, though, I did watch a better anti-war film a few weeks ago, and I talked about it briefly on last episode, but Jean-Luc Godard's Les Carabiniers, I think, has more of a creative spin on war, and kind of how it uses kind of dark comedy to kind of make something so horrifying, give you this reaction of, the only reaction that you can have is almost laughter, because of just how absurd it is. You just have two men that join the military for all the wrong, or they join the military because they're promised that they can abuse women and steal from people and kill people without any repercussions whatsoever. But they're also just complete idiots. Like, I can't really, but similarly underseen, I would say. But I just think that it also purposefully looks as ugly as possible, which I appreciate. And while I don't think this movie looks great, it still has some nice look to it.
At the beginning, it looked a little bit more striking than it would like. I really like the opening shot of the three doctors looking down on him and kind of examining him.
Yeah, it felt like that Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah, it does very. I think that's the most like captivating kind of image that is in the movie.
Well, that's the reason why James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich, Dave Mustaine, and other members of Metallica decided to use the clips from Johnny Got His Gun for the music video to their song One from Injustice for All, their 1989 album. According to what I read, they actually bought the film rights so they wouldn't have to keep paying the royalties for the music video, which I think is really funny. And
is it that good of a song?
Yeah, you never heard that song?
I may have. I just might not know it off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's hold my breath is always the word.
Oh, I think,
yeah. Guitar Hero classic. Guitar Hero, 3?
Unfortunately, it doesn't make an appearance in Guitar Hero, but that'd be kind of funny. The music video, okay. Scenes from Johnny Got His Gun don't make an appearance in Guitar Hero.
But yeah, I do think that this is, or at least in people's recent memory, the impact that this film has is the clips of the footage being used in the music video to a Metallica song.
Oh no. I mean,
yeah.
At least it has a legacy of some sort.
Yeah.
So
it is. I do think that. I feel like the other characters aren't real. Oh, we gotta talk about the nurse character.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you wanted to.
We gotta parse the question about why. So there is a nurse that takes a liking to
Joe.
that takes a liking to Joe, and she's very she
Affectionate.
yeah, she's very affectionate towards him, and feels immensely bad for the pain that he's in and his inability to live a normal life. And then like I'm
glad you're taking the the forward with this guy. Do you want me to?
She sexually provides for him.
Yeah.
In something that we just did came completely out of left field.
Yeah.
Borderline, well, I would say, well, definitely non-consensual.
Yeah.
It's just a very strange scene where she, I don't know, gives him a hand job. Like,
yeah, it's so it really does come out of nowhere, and you kind of think about it, and you're like, no, this can't be what's. I legit thought, I was like, no, that can't be what's happening. And then the scene that follows that is him,
a flashback.
Yeah, popping out of the water, which I can only assume is supposed to represent his
orgasm,
his climax. Yeah, so
which, you know, good for him, man. You know, he may not have any limbs or anything, but you know that part's still functional.
Yeah.
Functional. Yeah, but well, so yeah, the way that kind of it flashes back, or sometimes they're not even flashbacks to just kind of the inner workings of his mind as he talks to people throughout his life, including Donald Sutherland
as Jesus,
as literally as Jesus, is quite creative, I will say. And
I
that's
do like all the scenes, and the scenes with Kareen. I thought their kind of dynamic was interesting.
Yeah,
I wish it was further developed. What was his girlfriend?
Yeah, Kareem is his girlfriend. That she, he there's kind of like landmarks from their relationship, or important parts of their relationship that he thinks about. Also, a weird Christmas party where
I am the boss.
I am the boss.
This is champagne.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Their boss just repeats that line like 15 times.
I have no idea why.
It's very like, I don't know, it was like something out of the Red Room in Twin Peaks.
That's a very good way to describe it. I also like the moment right before that one where the nurse kind of connects with him through a different kind of like sensory experience, where she because we don't know if he can hear. I guess he can't really hear. He can feel vibrations, and he can't really see either. But he can feel people touching him. And so she kind of undoes his hospital gown and kind of writes "Merry Christmas" on his chest, which I thought was also kind of an interesting like development. I kind of like that scene.
Yeah, it was
even if their relationship is an odd one, it you know,
and a bit problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess another thing that I noticed is the title of the film, Johnny Got His Gun, is a play on the lyrics from the song Over There by George Cohan. That was kind of especially a World War I patriotic song, where they go, you know, you've probably heard it before, right? You know, over there, we'll be marching.
Oh, yeah, I may have.
Johnny got your
I do
gun.
Appreciate all the singing you've been doing.
Yeah, thank you. Of course.
I probably have. I just can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, well,
I'll put all these on Spotify on my way home tonight.
It's kind of a banger. Yeah, it's a pretty good song. Despite the fact that the film, the song was used to get men to join the military.
Yeah.
But it was, it was World War I,
Different time.
different time, different war to, pointlessly die for.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the title is a play on that. And I also, the song is quite prominent in the film Yankee Doodle Dandy with Jimmy Cagney as well. Very, very, very good biopic about the guy that wrote that song. But yeah, it definitely makes you think though. War equals not good.
Well, I thought it was also interesting. The reason I picked this one is because Pureflix is making their anti-weed film Johnny Got His Bong, and I just thought this would be kind of like an interesting, comparison and anticipation for when that one comes out.
Man, I can't believe that Pureflix is tackling
the weed culture.
The weed culture.
Well, I guess do you have any final thoughts you kind of want to put on it?
I don't. Yeah, I think that it's kind of one of those soft wrecks. It's a sad one, and if you really want to learn about what many soldiers have to go through, then yeah, check this one out. I will be continuing to read the novel. I started it and I finished the foreword that Ron Kovic wrote, which was very good, but I actually have not started the book. But
I haven't heard that name in a while.
Ron Kovic?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's
I hadn't thought about, I always think of his nephew.
Yeah, so because he said that the book actually changed, completely changed his life and made him like the anti-war activist that he ended up becoming, because he, sympathized with the protagonist, because he also, he lost his ability to walk in Vietnam. So, and he said it was like his Bible. He carried around, all the pages were worn out. So thought it was very nice forward, but I'll have to see what he's talking about when I actually start the book. So
yeah, this one's gonna be a pretty a decent recommendation from me, I think. I did very enjoy it, although it has some shortcomings. But I'm also a fan of Timothy Bottoms. So this is another feel bad Timothy Bottoms right around the time of Last Picture Show.
Same year.
Yeah. So, so I haven't seen too many, me and Chris were talking about how we haven't seen too many movies, with him in it besides Last Picture Show and Texasville. So, I mean, truth be told, I think he gives a better performance in Last Picture Show, but I don't know really how much he can really do within the spectrum of this, movie. So
according to Wikipedia, he's played George Bush like 3 times.
Oh, I do want to see Timothy Bottoms as George Bush. That'd be very interesting.
I until I read that, I didn't realize, but they do have a kind of an uncanny resemblance. So,
yeah, I can definitely see that, like an aged Timothy Bottoms. I can see that. Well, I guess are you ready to take an ad break?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I guess we should do new releases, get those out the way real quick.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I did not have the time to watch Reminiscence, which is that new Hugh Jackman movie.
Yeah.
That Warner Brothers put out. So I could have just watched it from the comfort of my own home, but
I wanted to too.
But both me and Fulton did make our way to the multiplex and go see The Night House together, which is Searchlight's new effort. Well, a film that actually came out, that actually was released at Sundance in 2020, pre-pandemic, but it finally got a wide release.
It's weird not seeing Fox in front of Searchlight.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's a kind of, but
I don't like it one bit. But yeah, I think maybe you're a little bit more favorable on it than I am.
I think I am, yeah.
But yeah, I think it kind of plays with it. It's a film that's very mysterious. It's kind of cloaked in mystery for a good 75%, maybe 70% of it, and then when it actually does do the big reveal, I feel like it doesn't stick the landing.
Trips and falls on it. So
yeah, if you like to see Rebecca Hall fight with an invisible person, then this is the film for you. Let me tell you. However, I do think that for its quite low budget of, I would believe is, I want to say like $1 million was the budget.
if it really is, that's fantastic. I think that's amazing.
No, wait, it doesn't say. But I mean, it does a good job with, it's very, very minimalist with, like, barely any set changes. It's kind of, as friend of the show said, it almost feels like a chamber play.
I can definitely see that. With the movie, I'm gonna try and talk about it, and then I'll probably get into some spoilers because there's like a few reveals that I'm kind of very interested to talk about. So yeah, like Chris said, it does kind of like play it very, very secretive for a while, and you're kind of fed these little like tidbits of new information that kind of keep the character, Rebecca Hall's character, like spiraling into like this, I don't want to say insanity, but this obsession to really find out who her husband was. In the beginning of the film, I guess I'll just hop into spoilers. I'm sorry. The film starts out, and Rebecca Hall's can't remember her name. Rebecca Hall's husband has committed suicide, and she basically starts looking into all of his kind of personal, into his phone, into his computer, into all of his architecture, like sketchbooks and stuff like that. And she finds like this reverse house that's like a duplicate of their house. She finds this book about like suppressing one's darkness, and about I don't want to. Well, I get it also has like mazes in it. It's got all of this crazy stuff. Unfortunately, the kind of the book that she finds, and it's kind of dropped. And I thought that was kind of odd because it was kind of interesting to me, but
she goes to the place where he bought the book, and she's like, when did he buy this book? Blah, blah, blah. And then she sees somebody that he randomly took a photo of that when she was looking in her deceased husband's phone, and ends up just kind of interrogating her.
Yeah.
And then just like the book is just
it's
completely
dropped right after that. And so like, I guess that's my biggest thing with it is it just kind of drops these little things that don't get fully developed on. And then to wrap up my thought on it, because I don't want to spend too much time on it, because I don't want to hog the mic or anything, but essentially where it was going before the reveal, I thought it was going to be, and I always fuck up the name, but it's the Ted Bundy movie that Netflix made called like Extremely Wicked and Vile or something.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Yeah, that one. And like my issue with that movie is that it wanted to be a movie from the female perspective of Ted Bundy's wife. And about her having to come to terms with the terrible man that she was in love with, and her kind of having to deconstruct her relationship. But I feel like the issue with that movie is that it's just way too interested in Ted Bundy to actually let, I think that was Lily Collins, actually, to like let her just character actually be more than just the girlfriend of Ted Bundy. It is more of a Ted Bundy movie than The Girlfriend, but it wants to be from the girlfriend's perspective. So I thought that this movie was was that movie doing it the way it was supposed to, doing the way that it was, it was working until the reveal.
Until the reveal, which I feel like it, without giving it away, it ideologically is perplexing. The way that it is painted to this character is that her husband was only doing these terrible things because he loved her so much.
Yeah.
Which is strange, and
I find it interesting, and I think it probably could have been handled if not in a different way.
It also feels like I called it a high concept riff of a Final Destination, where you follow one character around because Rebecca Hall's character cheats death. And
spoilers.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're kind of already in spoilers, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reveal that she has like this little bit of dialogue in the beginning of the movie where she's confessing to her friend, or not confessing, but just kind of telling her friend that she died for 4 minutes in like Tennessee or something from a car crash, and she was brought back. And so it turns out that death possessed her husband's, well, I don't want to say, I guess possessed, but so the husband decides to kill women that look like Rebecca Hall to like trick death again, and it just like doesn't work.
So funny.
And so he kills himself because he can't, bring himself to kill the woman that he loves.
And he builds another house.
I don't know why though.
And hides the bodies there.
Yeah.
For some reason.
But the whole reverse house thing now that I'm thinking about it, the whole reverse house thing is never explained. I think it's more of just like a stylistic, thing.
And there's a red light. The red light is very prominent.
I just kind of thought of that as like Limbo, I guess,
Yeah, because she's
not exactly like...
she has like kind of these out-of-body experiences, but they are, I don't know, that she's like goes to sleep and she has these very weird visions, and then there's like this red light world. It's I don't know, man. It's fine. It's whatever, but I'm just asking you, Athens area cinemas, get Sean Penn's Flag Day here ASAP.
I do want to see that.
I know that I don't care if you say, oh, the critics' reviews aren't that good. Like, I don't care. It has to be more interesting than The Night House. That's all I'm saying. So, anyways, I think that's all I really have for new releases, unless you.
No, that's it for me too. So we can just you want to hop into your top three?
Yeah. Okay. So my top three. This week, well, I will definitely say that a movie that makes the top three, while not actually being a good film, is Rob Schneider's The Hot Chick, which was directed by a man named Tom Brady.
Nice.
Who also has credits such as Bucky Larson, Born to Be a Star.
God.
And The Comebacks.
I've seen Bucky Larson.
That was probably you probably thought it was really funny too, and you were like,
I saw it when I was like in middle school or something. I don't remember really anything about it.
So basically, the plot of The Hot Chick is that Rob Schneider and Rachel McAdams switch bodies with each other because of a earring that are from I believe it's Ethiopia, ancient Ethiopia. Apparently when you put on the earrings you switch bodies, and Rob Schneider and Rachel McAdams' consciousness of a 17-year-old mean girl 2 years before she was actually in Mean Girls switches with Rob Schneider, who's like a 30-year-old like petty criminal. And so then Rob Schneider, who's a 17-year-old girl, has to tell her friends about what happened, and hijinks ensue. Politically, I find this film to be very interesting, I think is a good word. I would call it reactionary, but also queer coded at the same time, because Rob Schneider falls in love with Anna Faris's character. Or no, Anna Faris's character falls in love with Rob Schneider, which is weird because Anna Faris is like 17 and Rob Schneider is 30. But remember, it's the consciousness of 17-year-old Rachel McAdams that she falls in love with, but just with the looks of Rob Schneider. So they kind of have this thing where it's like, oh, but you're a girl and I like you. And it's just kind of like, on top of it, it feels very forced to have such a serious plot line with this schmaltzy music thrown into a movie called The Hot Chick, that has gross out moments galore. But nonetheless, this one's a real shitty movie.
A doozy.
It's a real doozy. There's this whole bit about Rachel McAdams' brother, who wears her makeup and stuff, and it's supposed to be like, I don't know, look at this kid who's not wearing, he's not doing traditionally masculine things, and then it's just kind of dropped. I'm not really sure what the point was of it. Maybe it was supposed to mirror what Rachel McAdams and Rob Schneider go through as they switch bodies, but all I can say is that The Hot Chick amounts to a hot piece of garbage. That's what I'll say. So it makes the top 3, though, because I don't think that these movies will ever be made again, or these types of movies will ever be made again. And I would like to know where all the people that made them went, because The Hot Chick, White Chicks, and another Rob Schneider movie from 2008, Big Stan, these are all movies that have died in the last few years, and that's probably for the best. But as a cultural landmark, I think there's something to be said about watching these and at least talking to people about them, just being like, remember The Hot Chick? And just seeing what their response would be. But on to number 2 on the list, it would definitely have to be Tony Scott's Domino, which ideologically is just an insane film. Similarly, something that's quite unique, but I would say in a more positive light, is a film about a bounty hunter, a fashion model who becomes a bounty hunter.
Based on a true story. Sort of.
Kind of. Also, her crew includes Mickey Rourke and Edgar Ramirez, and also Christopher Walken and Monique are there, and Macy Gray, and it's insane. The editing is done like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater video game. Everything has a sheen of yellow and green. There's just so many cuts. I think that there's just I don't want to spoil it. That's the thing, is that I can't spoil some of the things that happen in this movie. It was written.
Well, people might not believe you.
Yeah, like actually, like if somebody told you that there's an extended sequence where Monique goes on Jerry Springer.
The best scene.
And the best scene in the movie. I really don't. I honestly, I wouldn't look down on you for not believing me, but it does happen. Richard Kelly wrote it. If you're familiar with the director/writer of Donnie Darko, and past covered film on Podcast 43, Southland Tales, and one of my favorite films of the 2000s. But this was a script that he wrote before Southland Tales, and I think it similarly has a lot of that very interesting Bush era politics that that I wish he would, continue to experiment with, but he really has, his career has kind of been dormant since he released 2009's The Box with Cameron Diaz and Frank Langella. But
he's getting that critical reevaluation. I mean, it's bubbling a little bit, but
I hope so. I think it seems like people have really come to appreciate Southland Tales throughout the years. So
the Arrow release, I think, is also kind of could be seen as integral of that. Just to throw my stank on it a little bit. I do like this movie. I think it might just be a little too long. I know Chris is very positive about it, and I can totally see why people would be champions for it. And I can see why people would not be too crazy about it. I don't really lean like pro or anti against it. I just think it's a little too long, and it thought it lost a little bit of its oomph after that kind of first hour to me. But it feels so much like Southland Tales. Like it's insane. It has the exact same kind. I mean, it's crazier, I think, maybe. Although it's kind of hard to compare like two variants or variations of crazy.
Southland Tales is the prophetic ramblings of somebody in an alley on crack.
Yeah.
This feels a little bit less chaotic.
You think?
Well,
I can't tell. It's hard to compare, though.
No, compared to Southland Tales, I think that Southland Tales is still crazier because it's like, at least this feels like a little bit more grounded in reality.
That is true. I forgot about all like the comic book splices for Southland Tales, but yeah, man, this movie's crazy. It's a wild ride, and I actually do, I think it is maybe not as crazy. I'm not super crazy about it, but I definitely think it's like an experience to like sit down and watch this movie.
My name is Domino Hobby.
I'm a bounty hunter. I would have liked to see Richard Kelly direct this movie, just because that might be part of me just wanting to see him like do more work, which is Tony Scott definitely has a style to him, a flavor.
So yeah, R.I.P. Tony Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Kelly, come on the podcast. Love to talk to you about anything.
Just would be quite interesting.
Just be fanboying about Southland Tales for like an hour. But and so number one is actually a 20-minute short film that I saw, which is Samuel Beckett's only directed film. He's a playwright, but he decided to jump into cinema with his 1965 short film, titled film, starring Buster Keaton, which is a very experimental film where Buster Keaton tries to evade the watchful eye of cinema covering his face, and it's very, very surreal. It made me think of Giga Vertov, the Soviet filmmaker, director of such films as Man with the Movie Camera and Enthusiasm, and kind of how he believed in the concept of kino eye, which is the camera. The camera is like capturing of, it's what cinema is, pure cinema, kino eye, maybe. This is a quite interesting film because Buster Keaton died about a year and a half after it was shot. Mm-hmm. He didn't really know. He just kind of did it because he needed the money. But he still dons his. It's very sad as well that happened. But he dons his iconic pork pie hat, of course, and yeah, I think that there's a lot to look into. There's about a 2-hour documentary about this film on the Criterion Channel called Not Film that I still need to finish. Mm-hmm. But it seems like Beckett hated it, but people seem to have garnered some appreciation from it, and I can definitely see why. Buster Keaton being in a surreal art house short film is really all you need to tell me to sell me on this movie. So special thanks to Cash Robinson for plugging this to me months ago. So
all right. I will pick up where you kind of started with talking about Buster Keaton. Although you're more of a aficionado and I don't know as much. I'm very new to watching his movies, but for my film class we had to watch Sherlock Jr. and I just thought this film is it's really fun, creative, inventive. It plays with the conventions of the camera so well. I think it's so fun with how it kind of is pulling off magic tricks right in front of your eyes, and you feel like it's not even possible, and then you see it. Yeah. And I was in marvel of this movie.
God, I wish he directed a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I know, right? If only he could put his flavoring on it. I really want to get in. I'm gonna stop saying flavoring. I'm gonna start saying stank. If only he could put his stank on it, you know. But yeah, man, go check this out if you haven't seen it. I know I'm probably so far in line of other people that have kind of praised it for what it is, but I thought it was very, very interesting, and I really want to know like how they did, honestly, some of the sequences for the time, like splicing film inside of film but minimized to fit the theater screen. I thought that was really crazy. I didn't think I'd see that.
Oh, it's such a great scene.
Yeah.
Or when he jumps into his costume from the window.
Yeah. I still want to know how they did the there's a scene where it almost looks like Buster Keaton jumps inside of somebody's body and moves through their middle part. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a pretty wicked little scene, but I also watched Ghost in the Shell, but I don't really know if I'm very equipped to like really talk about that one. I don't know if my opinions are too strong on it for me to really talk about it, but it has some very interesting like themes and thematics in there, but I just might not be too crazy about that one. I'm talking about the original 1995 anime. And then lastly, I watched Screwballs, which is the Canadian ripoff of Porky's, which we've covered before. And Screwballs also had the kind of same trajectory that Porky's had, where they had Screwballs 2, Loose Screws, and then they had Screwball...
Wait, but isn't Porky's a Canadian film?
I did not know.
Because remember we looked it up and it's like one of the highest grossing. I think it's like the highest grossing Canadian film ever.
That's strange.
So this is a ripoff of Canadian sex comedy Porky.
Sorry, I looked it up somewhere and it said just it's the ripoff of Porky's. There's also Screw Hotel or something, or like Screwball Hotel, which is like the third and final one. They're all directed by the same director.
I mean, Porky's does take place in Canada, though.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida, sorry.
With this movie, I mean, I like watching teen sex comedies because I think, like, the idea is kind of funny about them, and I always like to see, like, kind of how they go about doing some of the things that they do. So if we're looking at it as, like, a ripoff and in comparison to Porky's, it is far less racist than Porky's is. But I'd say on the same way that it exploits women, it's pretty much on like the same kind of, just bar.
Reading the Letterboxd synopsis, we have Screwballs. Welcome to TNA High, where the entire student body, including campus virgin Purity Bush, chronic masturbator Melvin Jerkovsky, repressed principal Stuckoff, and blonde bombshell Bootsy Goodhead almost rise to the challenges of freshman breast exams, bikini cheerleader attacks, inappropriate uses of bowling ball holes, and much more.
And TNA, I'm assuming, is supposed to be like tits and ass, I would think, is kind of like the naming.
Technology and arts, I think.
But I feel like
No, I'm just kidding.
it's supposed. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing about this film is like there's these group of men that are working together, and they also have women help them out. They are just trying to see Purity Bush naked, because she's like playful, like she'll talk like seductive and kind of like tease and flirt. But apparently in the school, she's never had sex. No one's ever seen her naked or anything. So that is the ultimate goals of our protagonists. And they are just so unlikable to me and unfunny. But there's also like a ton of people that look at these teen sex comedies and they're like aware that they have their flaws and they like them for nostalgia's sake, which I also find kind of, interesting.
Well, I would say that
Mm-hmm.
controversial opinion, but something like Euphoria is just as equally harmful. I feel like Euphoria is. It's like why are they in high school? This is so graphic and exploitive, and I don't know. As far as how it depicts teen sexuality in that way, the way that it's shot. I don't know. They could easily be in college instead, and it would feel less. I mean, it's similarly with this. It's like almost a.
Well, this one is just like, I don't know. This one's just it really wore me out. Like more than like Porky's is bad. Don't get me wrong, but this one like really like, I just found like everything about it to just I just couldn't find like a likable thing about it. But I can understand. Well, I don't know. This film just isn't for me. I don't really like to like shit on films, but I'm pretty comfortable with saying like this movie just isn't for me. I don't know who this movie is particularly for, but so yeah, that's really that was my last thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess yeah, that's really all we have. I guess we can briefly talk about what's coming out this week.
Yeah, we can.
Because we got the Candyman remake, which feels like it's been coming out for forever.
Months, yeah.
Because, of COVID and everything. But, yeah, I think that's really the only big thing coming out this week. Right? Unless
I thought so.
We just got some other stuff that like nobody's gonna see. I guess there's this James. Oh, okay. Here, this is an interesting one. This James McAvoy movie called Together, and it says husband and wife are forced to reevaluate themselves and their relationship through the reality of the COVID-19 lockdown.
Oh no.
What do you mean? Oh no.
It can't be. Is Flag Day playing? I'm looking.
No.
No.
Yeah, but I guess we got this other stuff. There's quite. I mean, the big one coming out on the week after is Shang-Chi, the new Marvel movie, which looks just. I mean, like everything that Marvel puts out looks absolutely uninspired garbage. But
it looks like they're replaying Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for its 20th anniversary.
And, of course, Karen, the crime drama thriller movie about a racist woman named Karen. Very, very topical for this time. But, yeah.
Demonic? No, that came out last week. I forgot. Neil Blomkamp's new movie, Demonic. That one's also out now.
Well, you can definitely count on me and Fulton covering Candyman soon. I don't know about next week, but definitely.
Just within like the next 2 weeks, we'll be taking care of that.
I know that there's a lot of people out there that are waiting to go see Candyman, or they're waiting to see if they should go see Candyman based on what we think. But
yeah.
Don't worry,
hold a lot of influence.
But I can announce, though, what next week's films are, and they are 2 films by Robert Bresson, the French darling of the French New Wave. He was kind of a predecessor to them, him and Tati, and was kind of was lauded by them when most of the other French filmmakers were constantly criticized for not pushing the envelope with what film could do. But we're gonna cover 1959's Pickpocket and 1977's The Devil Probably. So looking forward to talking about some Robert Bresson. L'Argent is one of my favorites of the 80s. Yeah. I hope y'all have a good rest of your week, and stay wavy.
And stay safe.
Nous voulons faire entrer le christianisme dans la vie moderne.
Il faut évoluer, vivre avec son temps.
Je le dégueule, votre temps.